Hey everybody, welcome to Grimm's Forge Gaming. Today I'm going to share with you my Necro tank. I've been having some fun with him on and off in BGs, and he's fun. You can do PVE and PvP with this. I can tell you in PvE, as far as tanking dungeons and stuff, he is super durable, and so that's great. He's also very durable in BGs and in Cyrodiil if you're jumping into Zergs. And so let's jump right into the build and we'll explain why that is. So we're running two-piece Thorvakun, and I really like this set. Something that, so the one-piece max health is nice, but when you take damage from nearby enemy, you summon a growing pool of desecrated bile for 8 seconds. Enemies in the bile take some damage, disease damage every second, and inflict them with minor maim and minor defile for 4 seconds, reducing their damage done by 15%, healing received, and health recovery by 15%. This is nice. The field that this drops gets really large too, and anyways, being able to inflict them with minor maim is nice because we're going to have a theme with this build. This particular build is built around health regen and damage mitigation, and the combination of both of those makes them extremely hard to kill. And I do have some footage. I just random queue, and I ended up in a death match, and I kind of laughed to myself, like, okay, here I'm not going to get any kills, but at least I can line things up and draw fire from the other team and try and be an annoyance or a nuisance or a troll. And so that's what we did. I think I went 1 and 0 and 36. And we won that BG, but basically I just stayed in the fight the entire time in everyone's face and just tanked the other two teams as best I could, lining up the kills. The next set that we are running on this is Orgnum Scales, and this is where you get that health regen situation. And while under 60% health, your health recovery is increased by 50%. And max health on a necro tank is definitely the way to go. So, we've got max health here coming in, and we've got max health and some health recovery. The second set that we are running is the Alessian set, and this will give me some armor, and it'll give me max health. And then the 5-piece, increase your health recovery by 1% for your sum of total physical resistance and spell resistance. And right now we're unbuffed, and it's at 628 health recovery. And let's buff up here real quick, and we're gonna look at the stats here. So we're at health recovery is 3,200, just under 3,300, and our physical resistance, spell resistance, and physical are capped. We have 2,000 critical resistance, and um, that will cut a lot of the damage that we have coming in. Our maximum health right now, we are in CP Imperial City right now, but we're just shy of 50k health. And, so we'll be at 80 or 90k health when we use one of our ultimates, so it makes us very hard to kill. Stamina, I noticed that between 15 and 20k is kind of where we want to be with this build, and Magicka at 15 to 20k as well, so we're a little on the low end, but weapon damage doesn't matter so much. This build isn't about killing with a health regen and damage mitigation. This is about being as tanky as possible. I wouldn't want to put a title on this and say it's unkillable, but it's pretty hard to kill, and you got to put a lot of effort into really trying to kill it. Um, and if you use your ultimates right, that really helps out. I'm using the steed. We want more health recovery out of that, and the movement speed's nice. And we're using the bewitched sugar skulls for the max stats, the health, and max magicka. And then of course you see that it has health recovery in that too, just shy of 400. And let me buff up again here real quick. I do want to look at, yeah, so this set, when we're buffed up, goes up to 733 health recovery. And so that's pretty nice. 3,200 health recovery. So what that means with 3,200 health recovery, 32 health recovery, and I think if we, so unbuffed, we're at 3124. That's what I did my math on, but 3124, when we get under 60% health, our Orgnum scales kicks in, and that takes us to 4,686 health recovery. So basically, um, we've got that coming in every 2 seconds, and that's just a lot of health coming in. And once you see the abilities that we're running, um, like I said, this is a health recovery, damage mitigation combination tank build, and you're not going to get a lot of kills with it, but you can stay in people's faces. Let's look at the abilities. On our sword and board bar, here's our debuff. We're going to apply major fracture and major breach, kind of line up the damage for our teammates. I do keep this on my bar during PvP for that very reason, and obviously you'll need that in dungeons as well. On my Swordboard board, I like to have the Scythe ability for the heal, and there'll be times in BGs where we're surrounded by 8 people and maybe they're targeting us. Because of our health regen and our damage mitigation, I'll hit the full group with this, and I might jump up half my health, so like 20k health, something ridiculous. So I have some BG footage of me actually using this, just cycling a heavy attack right into this, heavy attack into this. Here's where some of our damage mitigation comes in. If you read this, sap the lingering life from your fresh corpses, granting you 2 ultimate. Great. Healing you every 1 second for 2 seconds. That's great. And while your heal is in effect, you gain major protection, reducing the damage taken by 30%. This scales off your max health. Now, if you look at the bottom, it says, while slotted, your damage taken is reduced by 3%. So you get that 3% passive at all times, and then when there's corpses to consume, you've got healing coming in, and you gain major protection. So when I go through and I add up all the damage mitigation on this build, your Thorvacoon monster set does 15% damage mitigation, your Spirit Guardian does 10% damage mitigation, and Dead in Pain can do 33% damage mitigation. So that takes us to 58% damage mitigation. And then if I wanted to run, right now I'm not currently running because I like to run this for PvP, um, but for dungeons, or if I wanted to drop an ability, I would drop a brawler and I would put agony there. But agony totem gives you, all the way at the bottom, uh, let's see, nope, at the top, sorry, summon an effigy of bone at your feet, gives you minor protection to give you and your allies, reducing damage taken by 8%. So here's another 8% damage mitigation on top of the 58% that you've got from your other abilities, so that'll take you to 66% damage mitigation. This totem's really nice too. It gives you an ability to CC people or fear them, kind of build your house as a Necro. And your armor, if they're range attacking you, your armor will yank them into that and um, apply that minor vulnerability to them, so their damage taken is increased by 8%. So that's a nice little combo, has a little synergy to it. Um, Anyways, going back to our bar, Dead in Pain, 33% damage mitigation, some heals coming in, and generates ultimate. This is amazing. Spirit Guardian gives me a flat 10% damage mitigation, and it does a heal over time, so that's great. And then we're using Beckoning Armor. It gives me my major and my major resolve, and um, so my armor bonus, and it pulls people towards me if they're range attacking, like we said, so that's great. Also creates a corpse when it expires, so I can consume it. This also creates a corpse that I can consume, that feeds this. And on our Swordboard bar, we're running Ravenous Goliath. So the AoE field around it that generates a heal if I get into trouble, and the teams are doing a great job debuffing me with major and minor defile, and then they're just turning out a lot of pressure. I go into this, and if they stay in melee range attacking me, they're not going to kill me. And between this and all the damage mitigation and health regen that I have, and heavy attacking and spamming this, we'll be fine. So we still need to keep our buffs up and everything, but this is great. From a PVE standpoint, I use this too when some of the dungeons and bosses have one-shot mechanics. This is something that you want to pop in, and you can beat that one-shot mechanic. I forgot what dungeon it is, but the boss summons two ads that hold you down, and then he does this really heavy attack, and you can survive that with this on. Actually, with the hit points at this build, you don't even need that. You can survive that with just your basic damage mitigation in effect, and he does that. You survive the attack, so good to know. On our sword and board bar, or our two-hand bar, sorry, I like running reverse slice. Does a little bit of splash damage. Obviously, we're not a weapon damage build, and so don't expect um, amazing damage out of this thing, but there's a little bit of splash damage that comes from this, and we can execute people. So it's kind of fun to go into Ravenous Goliath mode, keep your buffs up, and then kind of turn into a bully and just go around reverse slicing everybody, trying to cause as much splash damage as you can. And you might be surprised if you throw a blighted blast bones out, and the tooltip on this is not too bad. 6,500 damage isn't too bad, but it applies major defile, and so with the amount of AoE damage that's coming from this, and you're continuing to try and execute them and blast them with this, you might get some people. Um, I'm running Brawler for the damage shield on it. There is a little bit of damage that comes with that as well. And the thought process on this is, if I'm spamming this, I'm really under a lot of pressure. I would rather, well, I would like to make sure I get a blighted blast bone, so everybody that's standing around me gets that major defile. Like I said, I'm trying to line up kills for my team, and if everybody's focused on me, which um, happens from time to time. They don't change targets. They're hellbent. They're gonna kill me, and so this helps with all my health regen and my damage mitigation and the shield stacking. I'm applying damage to them. So blast bone's pretty nice, and restoring tether. I was playing around with this a little bit. I actually like this. It's a free ability. You could drop vigor here, and I guess you could argue. When you're looking at that. So Vigor is going to be unbuffed 8,300 health coming in over 4 seconds, and it's 3,000 stamina. When you look at this, this is 8,600 health coming in over 12 seconds. So it looks like a really, really small hot that's coming in, but um, while slotted, your healing done is increased by 3%. So that's good. Um, we're running rally. This is still on the fence. Right now, I like this, and it has no cost, anyways. Going back to that, but we are running rally on this. It has a little bit of a burst heal, nothing to write home about, and I might actually change rally out to forward momentum, just for the snare removal, and I'll keep you guys posted on how that works out. And we're running Pestilent Colossus. This definitely lines up the kills. Applying major vulnerability, there's only a few abilities in the game that apply this, and this is one of them. My tooltip on this is super low, 5,200, 5,400, and 5,700 damage. But that major vulnerability, if I'm going to line up kills for my team, this is definitely the way to go. So if I'm not under a lot of pressure and I can line this up, that's what I'll do. Let's look at our CP. Alright, we've got 60 into healing done, or 60 into blessed, and 60 into mastered arms. Our blast bones is gonna fall into that direct damage, and then we've got physical weapon expert, so that way our heavy attacks are doing, roughly 18% more damage. This is a very heavy attack centric build, just because we only have 19k stamina and we've got buffs to maintain. And I don't do a whole lot of blocking on this. I more so do heavy attack and then use my scythe to bring in some health. If I'm going to stand there and just hold block, it's going to deplete my stamina pretty quickly, and then the end is near. So precise strikes, we've got, I'd like whatever crits we do get to have a little bit more on them, so we're just under 21% on that. Physical penetration, we're at 4400, so that way our blast bones, when it hits it, hopefully does a little bit more damage. And because I'm in the mix so much, I'm standing in the middle where the fight's at. Whatever damage I can do, I want to contribute as best I can. We're going 60 into Ironclad and 60 into Spell Shield, so that way most of the biggest hits in the game, all direct damage attacks, fall under this. So I'm hitting my 60, which is my personal soft cap that I like to do. I do have builds that go over this, but because of diminishing gains or returns, this is where I like to be. And Spell Shield, and then I've got 30 into crit resistance to make them a little bit more bulky. Nothing in the lady. Heavy armor focus, this is going to give us another 4400 on our physical resistance. And then healing received is increased by 12%. We've got 60 into that. 60 into Warlord, we are going to be CC'd and we will have to break free from that. And then we have 60 into Tenacity. I told you that this was a very heavy attack centric type build. We require the heavy attack to return stamina often, and this is how we do it. 60 into Mooncalf and 0 into Arcanist, but I haven't really noticed that this is an issue. We definitely need this, and our health recovery, obviously, because we're a health regen build and a damage mitigation build on this. We run 60. And like I said, I don't do a whole lot of blocking, but if I do, it's usually when I'm reapplying my buffs, I'll hold block just to kind of cut down on the damage coming in. That is the CP for this guy. He's a lot of fun in BGs, and this build in particular, when we're talking about CP versus no CP, I think we touch base on it, but we'll do it again here. So in CP right now, when we fall under 60% health, our health regen goes up to 4,686. In no CP, our base health regen is 2,878. So when we're in BGs, we have 2,878 regen. So any footage that you watch on this guy, you'll know that's his base. And then when he falls under 60% health, he goes to 4,317. A little bit more than that when you buff up, but 4,300 health regen is what you're seeing in the BG's videos that are coming out. So outside PvP, so when we're doing dungeons or we're down here in CP Imperial City, our sword and board, we are over cap. I already showed you that. We're at 36,699 resistances on our sword and board bar. And outside of that, so if we're in no CP or in BGs, our sword and board bar will be 32,264. So that's what you're seeing. We're just under physical and spell caps in BGs on this guy, but that's still a lot of resistance. Our damage mitigation is not affected in BGs, so when we were talking about having 66% damage mitigation, if we're using our agony totem and standing in it, or if we're without the agony totem, we're still at 58% damage mitigation. So the health regen and damage mitigation makes this build pretty tanky. I wouldn't recommend going into death matches thinking you're going to get a lot of kills. People call this a troll build or whatever, but the purpose of it is to draw firepower from people, at least for a short while. What'll happen is you'll see people just give up on trying to kill you, and then you're basically just bullying them, staying in their face. They're trying to line up combinations on your teammates, and they keep hitting you, and it's just super annoying. And that's your goal, is to just troll them, I guess, or just soak up as much damage as you can and be annoying. Eventually, teams kind of turn on you, and they're like, "Let's get this guy out of here," and then some pressure will come in, but he can withstand that pretty easily. So I'll get one of the videos out there. Like I said, I think I was one kill, 0 deaths, and 36 assists. So he was just in the mix the entire time. I do have a more aggressive version for a um, Necromancer tank, and I'm going to switch over to my other one. I have two tanks. I've got this guy, and then I have another one. We're going to jump over to his build real quick, and we're going to see what he does. Alright, we're here on my other Necro tank, and let me buff up real quick and kind of look at his stats. I'll show you the different armor sets that he is wearing. But stat-wise, you can kind of see he has a health regen as well. A little bit higher weapon damage, and that comes into effect. We are here in Imperial City. Build's still a work in progress, so he does take crit damage, but we're just under our resistance is 53,000 health too, and we're back at that just under 20k stamina, 16k magicka. So looking at this build, he's running Thorvakun as well, and actually he's the Necro tank that I started running it on, and I realized how valuable this set was. I could run for a health regen build. You could run Troll King, and that's another 1400 health when you drop under 50%. But the damage mitigation from this, paired with the build's health regen already, was pretty valuable. The other set we're running on this guy is the Juggernaut set. Interesting set. When you take damage while under 30% health, heal for 18,000 health. This effect can occur every minute. And the important thing about that is when you have 50k health and it's taking them a long time with your health regen and damage mitigation to get you low. And then when you hit that threshold of 30% and gain 1800 health, it's pretty disheartening. It's pretty disheartening, okay? And so they're trying really hard to whittle you down, and then all of a sudden you get this just huge burst of health. So that's been a really fun set to run with, Juggernaut set. And the second set we are running is the Doyle Mish set. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but max health, that's great. Weapon damage, that's great. When you're using a fully charged melee heavy attack on a taunted monster or any enemy who is stunned or immobilized, you will deal bonus 15k physical damage. It can occur every 7 seconds. And that makes this set very sneaky damage. Okay, and when I'm running around in the sewers, this has happened before. I'll be running around and somebody will see me, and for whatever reason they say, I'm going to try and kill that 50k health tank, and they leap onto me and do virtually no damage because of the damage mitigation, and then they go into their rotation and they're having no success. And my we'd already said before that this build is very heavy attack damage centric. I heavy attack and then scythe, get a blast bones on them, and so keeping my major defile on them and then landing a 15k heavy attack, that's in addition to what your heavy attack lands for. Okay, so when your heavy attack lands, whatever that damage is, whatever your weapon proc is, this one will do a little bit of magic damage return. This one will do or health return and health return. Um, but whatever your heavy attack hits, plus like right here on this bar, because this is sharpened, um, that it's a 1571 damage. And so I wonder, we're just going to look at this real quick. let's see. Yeah, so 17, there we go. 16,035 is what your Doyle Mish heavy attack will register on top of every 7 seconds. So this build has been a lot of fun, and from a dungeon standpoint, I noticed that I really liked running the spiked bone shield. So that shield is cut in half down here in Imperial City, but um, when you're looking at it down here, it's still 8,300. I have so much health, it's still an 8,300 damage shield, and returns 59% of the damage that is done to me. And so when I'm this is an option. You see how I drop this where the blast bones is, you know. Um, and there's a lot of dungeons that when the boss has a one-shot mechanic between the damage mitigation and this shield is doubled outside of here, so it's a 16k damage shield. It's pretty impressive shield. But anyways, I'm running a little bit different setup on this guy, playing around trying to find that sweet spot for the build. And between both those builds, I found something very fun. So a uh, health regen build with just the class has really good damage mitigation between Spirit Guardian and Dead in Pain and Agony of Totem. You throw Thorvakun on there for an extra 15% damage mitigation, and I think the Heartland set has 5% damage mitigation. You can get another 5% damage mitigation from Potentates, so there's other ways to stack damage mitigation. But 58% or 66% damage mitigation is pretty insane. Um, these builds have been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun playing with them, and I look forward to getting a couple BGs out there just so you can kind of see um, what you can do. So if you've been running around and you're getting tired of just mowed down by people, and you want to troll some people or have a little bit of fun, these are definitely the builds. If from a PVE standpoint you're having problems with dungeons that have one-shot mechanics, um, this build is the whenever I'm doing Vet Frost Vault or Bloodroot Forge or whatever it is that have heavy um, mechanics, Depths of Molitar, this is the tank I take in. And he just eats the damage up like it's no problem. So this is definitely the way. Thanks.